Oh, see you, relative. My name is Mary Kitchens, and this talk I was going to give at the California Conference on American Indian Education. And so I thought I would do it virtually because I am now a virtual teacher from Sir Francis Drake High School also. I have two intentions today in this talk. One is to celebrate our intimate connection with corn. And two is to tell some stories, to share some stories with you, to talk story with you, and look at some of the analogies and metaphors that we might find useful in these teaching stories. When I was a little kid coming up, my elders would say to me, "Don't you know how to tell if something's good or right?" And I guess it was pretty obvious I was struggling with that issue, like a lot of young people, maybe. I surely was one of those who needed some help in that area. So my elders would say, "The way you tell, Melly," Melly is how the Cherokee say Mary. "The way you tell, Melly, is you ask yourself, does it grow corn for the people?" And as a young person, I understood them to be saying to me that I needed to get over myself immediately and start thinking for the collective good. And maybe that teaching is useful for us today also, as we need to start looking at the collective good for all of us. And so we can ask ourselves, does it grow corn for the people? And also, as I was coming up, my father would tell me the story of Salem corn. And he'd say, "Mary, a long, long, long time ago, there was a grandmother with two grandsons. And these two grandsons were coming of age and becoming very skillful hunters. And so one day, when she saw that they were preparing to go out hunting, she said, 'Oh, grandsons, you are becoming such fine, skilled young hunters. So today, when you come home from your hunt, I will have a very special meal prepared for you.' So the young men thought that was pretty good, and they went out and they got a couple wild turkeys, not easy to catch, and they brought them back proudly to their grandmother, and she said, 'Oh, here's this special meal I have for you.' And in this large pot, she had this stew. And the young men ate the stew, and they said, 'Oh, this is the greatest meal ever.' And another time, they were planning to go out hunting, and grandmother said, 'Oh, young men, I'm going to prepare such a special meal for you when you get home.' And once again, they came home, bringing a deer this time, and grandmother had prepared, they thought, the most delicious meal they'd ever tasted. And the next time, they were going out to go hunting again. And again, grandmother told them, 'Oh, fine young men, when you get home, very special meal.' And when they were out there hunting, one of them turned to the other and said, 'I wonder what this is that grandmother puts in her stew pot that makes her meals so delicious. Do you know what it is?' They talked about it, and neither one knew. So one of them said, 'You know, what do you think if I snuck back and watched grandmother and see what she puts in that pot?' And they thought that was a good idea. So one of them snuck back, and he watched as grandmother took a flat basket into the smokehouse with her, and he looked between the slats, the wood slats of the smokehouse, and he saw grandmother standing over that flat basket, hitting her sides, and kernels of her were falling down into the basket. And she kept hitting her sides and more till she had a basket full, and she went outside and put it in the pot. And he ran back out into the woods to talk to his brother and said, 'You're not going to believe what I saw.' And that night, when they came home from hunting, and grandmother gave them her prepared meal, they didn't eat it. And she said, 'What's the matter, boys? don't you like me anymore? And she said, you know, I think you know something now. And boys, you are now young men, and you're coming of age, and it's time for me to lay down and die. I won't be coming back. I won't be getting up again. But here's what I'd like you to do. When I cross over, take my body and place it out there in the field and put a fence around it, protect it, and in the spring you'll see a beautiful plant grow. And this plant will put off these ears of what we call corn. And that fall, after the corn is ready, you pick it and you dry it, and you take the seeds the next spring and plant them in even a larger field. And she told them the whole method of planting, all the instructions. And she said, and wives will come for you, and children, and grandchildren, and there will be food for everyone. So as a young person hearing this story, what I thought was, oh, I'm being told about the cycles of life. And also sort of reassured that these young men were participating in that cycle. They hadn't done anything wrong. They were being curious, as young people are, and as I surely was. They were being curious, and so that's when grandmother knew it was her time to go, and she gave them everything that they needed. So when a couple of years ago, when I was at an elders gathering that I go to in the summer, it was time for green corn ceremony, and the people were bringing in the ears of green corn to hand to the firekeeper. And at the fire was this Mayan elder who took the green corn and held it to her breast and held it to her forehead and kissed it, kissed all the ears of corn. And she said, I am corn. And I thought, oh, there's someone who still has that intimate connection with corn. So I've started growing my own corn in the last few years, and I grow this Cherokee blue corn, and you can see some of the ears come out solid purpley blue, and some of them come out blue and white. And when it's green corn, it's white and milky and really yummy. And I let it dry I eat a little bit of that, but mostly I let it dry on the stalk. And then I pick it and dry it and keep it in a dry place all winter. And then I've just started shucking last year's and taking the kernels off, so you can see these beautiful kernels. They're blue, black, and white. And some of it I grind into cornmeal, and it makes this beautiful lavender speckled cornmeal. But most of it, what I take, I make into hominy. And I'll tell you the last story here, which is about nixtamalization. And it's an interesting history of Turtle Island here. You know, north and south, all across Turtle Island, people lived on corn. And when the Europeans arrived and they saw these healthy, happy people and fields of corn, sometimes the Europeans encountered cities larger than any that were then in Europe, and fields larger than any that they had seen. And this wonderful plant that grew so abundantly and so easily, so verdantly, corn. And so many of them took this corn back to their own countries, and people grew it, and when they ate it green on the cob. And many people, if that was their main part of their diet, developed pellagra, which is a niacin deficiency. Because what had happened is they took the gift of corn without taking the deep understanding of how to work with that medicine. What the native people all across Turtle Island knew was that the green corn is yummy and delicious, but you need to put it through the entire process of nixtamalization. Nixtamalization is an anglicized version of an Aztec word, and you can see in the middle of it there is tamal, which you might know as tamales. Because in the process of nixtamalization, you end up with one of the end products can be the masa from which you make tortillas and tamales. So what I do is I take the dried corn kernels and I boil them about a ratio of 2 to 1, 2 cups dried corn kernels, 1 cup of wood ash. And you can see this wood ash is very fine. I sift it through one of those fine mesh sieves. And this wood ash I get from the fire keepers at ceremonial fires, so it also has all those wonderful prayers in it. And of course you'd want to be sure to use very good clean wood, not plywood or anything with glues or any sort of treatment in it. So you boil that with a lot of water for about 3 hours, and the lime in the wood ash makes available all the amino acids and the niacin. So making this perfect food, this perfect medicine. And once you've boiled it for 3 hours, you rinse it really well, and you get this beautiful hominy. Now, the hominy that you might be used to buying in cans in the grocery store might be white or yellow. Mine comes out this beautiful color because it's from the Cherokee blue corn. And some of it puffs up really large. So as it boils with the lime, the wood ash, the hominy, as it grows and puffs out, it sloughs off the outer layer, the pericarp, which some people who might have a little stomach reaction to corn and think they can't eat corn, it's actually the pericarp that they're allergic to or sensitive to. So it gets rid of that problem also. So now, when you have this beautiful hominy, then you have several options. You can make pozole and a kind of stew. You can make succotash. You can dry it and grind it into hominy grits. And you can also mash it into and make tortillas. You can mash it and dry it, and all still while maintaining its integrity as a perfect food that's going to give all sorts of great nutrients. So the lesson that we learned from this nixtamalization story is that we need to have a deep understanding of medicine. We can't just walk away with some juicy green corn and think that we understand the whole deep teachings around the medicine. So that's another good lesson for this day and time. I'm going to close by offering some cornmeal, making a prayer and making a cornmeal offering this great abundance that is corn back to our Mother, the Earth. I want to give great thanks for corn and for all the abundance of Mother Earth. And I pray that you and all your loved ones are healthy and happy. Ho.